And Suffolk County Executive Steve Levy is here with me. Steve, following your rather disappointing, actually, situation here at the convention, you failed to get onto the ballot. And close, but not quite, not enough.
Well, we think it's a great showing that in just 2.5 months, we were able to get about 42% of this vote, which is pretty remarkable. I mean, if you thought that a Democrat in January or even March, when I made my switch, was going to be able to get that close to being on the ballot to run for governor, it's a pretty remarkable achievement. We're all very proud of it. And now what we're most proud of is the fact that my platform, which called for tax caps and budget caps and things of that sort, which were never being talked about by anyone, everyone's got it in their platform. So for that reason alone, we feel it's been a success.
So that you think you're taking credit for that? You say that you've moved the conversation.
I think I have the right to do so. I mean, if you look at it, in January, I placed the first very specific plan as to what we need to do to get control over spending in this state. No one else was talking about it. Of course, Andrew Cuomo was not coming out with any specific policy plans, claiming he's not a candidate at the time. David Paterson, who was in the race at that time, had taken away all the ideas of budget caps and spending caps and tax caps. He could have put in his budget. He did not. Republican candidates were not talking with any specificity. Now they all have plans, and they seem to be somewhat of a photostat of what I laid out.
Ed Cox actually came way out on a limb for you, and he then has since said to the media after this vote that you will not be remaining in the race in any way, shape, or form, that you will not be running on an independent line, that you're done, finished, and you say that's not true.
Well, first let me say, as far as Ed, Ed ran an extraordinarily fair process. You know, Ed came out, did put his neck on the line and said,
oh, he might lose it, actually.
Well, maybe, but that's what it is to be a leader. You know, he didn't think that the party was going in the right direction. There was no money being raised. There was no excitement. And he was right in one way, that my injection into this race energized the Republican Party. I mean, you guys in the media had a field day, let's face it,
yes,
for the last 4 months, talking about us every day. And that's why I actually thought, and Ed thought as well, a primary could be a good thing in raising profiles for our candidates who were starting way behind an attorney general with tremendous name recognition and a great deal of money. So I think he was right in that regard. He laid out a very fair process, and hey, the other guy got more votes,
okay, then
and you have to accept that.
Stay
well,
in.
I didn't say I'm not. You know, we're just going to deflate a little bit, take a little time, cool off, and then we'll see over the next couple of days or weeks, are the other candidates out there actually pursuing with vigor the type of principles that I've been expounding upon in my platform, tax caps, spending caps. I want to see if they really mean it and they're just not giving lip service to it because, well, Steve Levy was talking about that too.
Did you do this just to raise your name recognition because you might want to run for something else further down the line?
Oh, hardly. Look, you have to understand the context. I'm a county executive who would have been up for re-election in 2011, and I still can.
Would have been? I was just going to say,
I still
are
can
you
be.
going to?
Probably, most likely. But had I not run, okay, $4 million, $5 million in the bank.
Oh, you could have
popularity, just sit there.
To other
could have
candidates.
done that, but more importantly, I mean, I could just sat on it and been an easy victor in a year and a half.
Right.
It's a heck of a risk when you say, hey, I'm going to potentially take all that money and, you know, put it into a race where you might not be successful. And, you know, I didn't make the primary ballot, so now that money's staying put. But had I gotten over that threshold today, I would have expended that $5 million. And had I lost the primary, I would have been sitting there for re-election with no money. So it's a tremendous risk. You don't do that just to raise a profile. You do it because you really want to make a difference. And this particular year, I just didn't see anyone with executive experience running, and I thought I had the right resume for the time.
But you're not going to rule out the possibility that in 4 years you might try and take another shot at it.
Oh, maybe. You know, listen, in this business, you don't know what's going to happen 4 months down the road, let alone 4 years down the road. You know, I feel very comfortable with the decision I made to join the Republican Party. They've been very embracing of my policies.
Let's assume that you don't run this independent campaign for governor, that you don't run for governor. Will you endorse Rick Lazio?
We'll see. You know, again, you can't be making those kind of determinations now when you still have a potential race that might be against that individual at the moment. Again, I want to sit back and wait and see, are these candidates serious about these issues? I think we've come a long way because before I was in this race, no one was talking about these things. Now every candidate has it as part of their platform. For that reason alone, I think we've been somewhat successful.
You are a Republican, sorta. I mean, you actually have some time because you made the switch late, that it hasn't taken effect and won't until after the fall.
Right.
I understand you're planning on remaining in the Republican Party.
Yes, I am.
Doesn't that complicate your re-election bid should you decide to run for re-election?
Now, in my area, you see, the people outside of my area, they had to get to know me. Well, why is he turning over? Is he an opportunist that, you know, he couldn't make it this way? So the people in my area know I've never really governed as a really partisan guy. It's always been common sense. It's been about keeping taxes under control. That's why when I ran last time, it was with not only the Democratic, but the Republican, conservative, and independents endorsements. And to those folks, it was like, oh, Steve Levy became a Republican. He's been governing as a Republican for the last 8 years. You know?
I don't know that the Democrats would actually even want you. I mean, they
started
this website that highlights you talking about Barack Obama in
that's
2008.
Charlie King. That's the, by the way, what's ironic.
Oh, you guys don't get along so well, if I remember correctly.
But you have to understand, look, this is the political opposition. Let's face it. Who did Andrew Cuomo least want to run against this November?
You say
Steve
it was
Levy.
you, yes.
Absolutely. It was because of the resources that we'd bring to the game, and also the fact that my executive experience would dovetail quite nicely against Mr. Cuomo's lack of executive experience. So the last guy they wanted winning today was Steve Levy. So they were actually attacking me, not Rick Lazio, not Carl Palladino over the last couple of weeks.
Well, do you think that hurt you? Because I talked to a number of chairmen and state delegates who said, convention delegates rather, who said, you know, if only he had made the switch earlier, maybe we could feel, because there were a lot of people who felt like it didn't really even have to do with you per se as a person or what you may have stood for, or maybe they liked what you were saying. It was more that big D after your name.
And that's understandable. You know, it's one thing when you're saying, hey, I'm going to be changing the party line, accept me. And they all did. I felt very warmly accepted. It's a bigger leap, though, to say, listen, not only am I changing in just 2 months, but I'd like you to accept me as your standard bearer for your party for the highest office in the state. That's tough to do. And to think that we got 42% of this convention saying, yeah, we want you to be on the ballot when just 2.5 months ago I was a Democrat, I think that's a great accomplishment.
Okay, so Ed Cox, you are not angry with him.
Not at
You're
all.
not upset with him. Do you think he should remain chairman?
Yeah, I do.
He roiled the waters of his party considerably.
No, I think he strengthened his party. Listen, this is the thing with the Republican Party. I was calling around to the folks who were committee people. It's a much older crowd, okay? You've got to start injecting this party with young blood. People in their 20s, people in their 30s, independents, soft Reagan-type Democrats. If they don't do that, they're going to continue to lose. As John Laval said in his remarks, we start off with a 3 million disadvantage, 3 million voter disadvantage. You've got to grow this tent. And I'm the kind of guy who can do that. And I think Ed gets that. John Laval, our local county chair, gets that. So let's open that tent. He did a great job. It was a fair process. I didn't win it this time. I accept that, and I respect that. We're going to stay part of the process, and we'll see how things grow in the future.
Well, Rick Lazio's not exactly elderly.
No, but he's not the rank-and-file committee person. You know, the rank-and-file worker here. You know, you're not getting young people joining the Republican Party in droves. They're becoming independents. Or, you know, they might be more attracted to the Tea Party group. Republicans have to lay out a platform that says to these younger people, to these independents, to these Tea Party folks, to the soft Reagan conservative Democrats, that there's room for you here. And I'm hoping that my candidacy has lent that sense that you can come over, and hopefully they'll be saying the right things that help grow the party coming into the future.
Will you be endorsing any of the other Republicans or helping them, assuming that you don't run yourself?
Well, I'm certainly going to continue to work hard to get a Republican Senate, because I think it's good, for example, for Long Island. I mean, we got hurt really bad when we lost that block of clout that we had for so many years. And, you know, I'm going to do it the very best I can, and I'm going to stay involved myself, and who knows, maybe I'll be back.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Steve Levy.
That's the cue.
This is the cue. The cue is that the music is playing, and you're done. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Liz.
It was nice
Pleasure.
to see you.
Good to see you, Jenny Campaign.